Oke, saya lagi di Monash University, ada pertemuan dengan Pak Anies Baswedan, eee, Gubernur, DKI Jakarta, soal urban transformation. Mungkin sudah ada di sini kali. Oh iya. Ini Pak Yasinta, ini ada orang-orang di sini, VIP, ada Pak Eli semua.
Monash has great strengths in the areas of urban planning, design, architecture. So there's lots of interests in this subject. Let's hand over to you some introductory comments and then we'll take questions and answers.
Thank you. If I may take the lecture here, I have some of the materials printed as a PowerPoint presentations. But first of all, allow me to extend my appreciations to Professor Sin Murray, the Dean of Monash Arts and Design and Architect, Jakarta. When we talk about Jakarta, this is a city that has been around for many years, and we have complex challenges. Let me give you some illustrations about the city itself, some highlights. First of all, this is a city with 11 million people within the territory of Jakarta, and with the Greater Jakarta, it's about 35. Respondents will not be saying about air pollution, will not be talking about traffic congestions, and they take it as given. If you live in Jakarta, then traffic will be there. Traffic issue is there. So if you ask household what are our paradigm about building our city, has always been a car-oriented development. That's the paradigm we had for so many decades. This is not what our city, but we've sort of overlooked the importance of providing basic services. Give you an example, oriented into transit oriented. That is reflected in the zoning regulations in Jakarta that need to be reformed. In the past, in a car-oriented development approach, you assume everyone's mobility is using their private vehicles, private cars. Therefore, we have always required, whenever you build an apartment, at least 15% of the meter square has to be allocated for parking. That assumes everyone will own a car. And if you see an apartment here, do you see requirement for building 15%? No, 15% is a lot of space. 2018, late 2018, begin 2019, we could not get approval. We were back and forth. And finally, we get it done in the year 2022, not because the House agreed with this reform, but because the Omnibus Law had outlined rules. If the House did not approve the proposal in 6 months, then the governor can issue a governor decision. Transport, and that is also reflected in where we are in terms of traffic congestions. We used to be third most congested city, and then we dropped to number 7 in the following year, and then the following year we dropped to number 10. being in the top 10 on every issue is good, except traffic congestion. And you don't want to be in the top 10 of traffic congestions. And we dropped to number 34, and I think last year we dropped to number 46. So you're seeing that trend. And what we'd like to see is this needs to continue, which also means we had the Q&A. Terima kasih.
We'll take Q&A from people in the room and people online.
Ash more broadly is an expert university in urban mobility. We've also been working on the Chitteron River project there with the Governor of West Java. We've had a long-term engagement in Makassar around the RISE project, revitalising informal settlements. So we have a decade-long, just the transformation that you were able, you and your colleagues, to enact. But then from our own work, engaging with Jakarta in particular, is the ongoing challenge about how you keep these momentums moving, which is the same challenge that you raised. And often we see the challenges, one where there may be many different entities, many government organisations, many public sector interests, many community interests. It's how you develop a culture of integration across what are often conflicting domains. And I just wondered whether you had any advice for your audience about how you actually bring government, industry, community together in these very important united missions.
Large three cluster of our society: government, corporations, communities. And if I may, I'll use how we integrated our public transport as one example, because this is really three clusters were actually involved. One, we adopted the paradigm that we are adopting is an approach in which we don't assume that we know every solutions to every problems. And we are adopting what's called, and then it developed into City 2.0, where we are being service provider, and that the people were being seen as consumer. And in Indonesian term, we're often being told, you are pelayan masyarakat, and then the people is simply customer. And then, as our society were growing, more educations, more empowered in terms of their socioeconomic, our populations can also serve as participants in the city management, and that we in government serve as facilitator, okay? Because the people can also provide solution on their own, no longer relying only on government. And we are seeing that in education services. We have private sectors coming in and provide education services, even in transportations, in many things. People will come in and provide services to the public. So we are facilitator and the people are participant. But we are entering the fourth generations of city management, in which government as collaborator and the public is as co-creator. So we are seeing private sectors and community as co-creator to solution in our city, and that we have to engage them. This is true, especially in terms of in Jakarta. Why it is the case in Jakarta? There is no other city in Indonesia that has as many private sector as many as Jakarta. There is no other city in Indonesia that have think tanks as many as Jakarta. They have university as many as Jakarta. They have NGO as many as Jakarta. Why should we in government do everything on our own? Why don't we invite everyone and work together and share our vision, share our challenge, and invite people to come in and provide ideas, solutions, and collaborations. Transactions is here. We're going to buy your services by kilometers. So you can operate in the city of Jakarta, for example, one route, say P21, you remember P21, P21, that's one route. You have to circulate the routes, let's say 100 kilometers per day, and we will be paying you based on kilometers. You should not go lower than 190, and you should not go above 110. So use your cards to transfer from one bus to another at no additional cost whatsoever. And therefore, you don't have to worry about transferring at your transit place. Because in the past, they cannot transfer easily. So on the one hand, you and be our representative in doing this. And we give the money to this company. That's where the subsidy comes. So we provided the money to our company to bear the difference between the expenses that we're making to the private operators and also the revenue we're getting from the public. The difference is the payment that we're making to that company. So that we're also able to expand our coverage. Jakarta Public Transport covered only 40% of our city for so many decades.
Anies, don't forget to put women right front and center in your political agenda because you play a very important role in that. My question is this. The monster called COVID is changing us in a big way. Yeah? And then that brings us to discussions about work from home, productivity, technology, access to technology. I haven't seen that somewhere in your proposal. So we'll appreciate for you to comment on that. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Then one part, I'll take
Specifically, what aspect of the work from home?
Work from home, that means access to technology,
Okay.
online, and so on and so on, which is related to women, and what you just suggesting about mobility and car transportation and so on.
Why didn't you get that part, Anies? I'm going to take one more question. This gentleman here. Yeah. Thank you. And if you could say your name, Pak.
Okay, thank you. My name is Raditya Alfarabi. I live in here to accompany my wife, and also I would like to attempt research in here. I'm a medical doctor from Indonesia, from University of Indonesia. I would like to take credit of your presentation related with Jakarta public transport. I think the problem of Jakarta, not only Jakarta itself, but also the related of the city with the suburban area.
Suburban?
Yes, like Bekasi, Depok, Tangerang, and Bogor. For instance, when I live in Jakarta, actually I live in Bekasi, I need to go for work every time to RSCM, Indonesian National Referral Hospital, for 16 kilometers, it's about 2 hours. I choose my own car rather than public transport like commuter. It's because the inconvenience and the criminality, I'm sorry. And I think, I agree with your integrated system of public transport. But I think, sir, it's not enough at all to connect the suburban area to the capital or to the Jakarta. And secondly, I would like to maybe not have the same vision with you, sir. So how about the merit system to compete or to make sure or maintain the political system didn't affect the concept that you have built up right now? Thank you, sir.
Your name again?
I'm Raditya. And also I becoming Ahmad Wahid Award at 2009 when you becoming Paramedina Rector.
Over to you, Pak Anies.
I told the audience be short. He was looking at me. I said, some answer too. Yes, ma'am, it is indeed. COVID changed a lot. And you know, when we're handling COVID, 6 out of 8 key positions on the zoning aspect, there is silver lining behind the refusal of the House approval for so many years, because it finally approved after COVID. And because of that, we incorporate new approach in how we manage one zone in Jakarta. So now we are designing a residential area as an area that should be able to operate independently had something like COVID is happening again. In the past, when you are in the residential area, you're not allowed to build hospitals, commercial activities, and then is integrating all public transport in Jakarta under the authority of Jakarta government. The commuter lines were not part of Jakarta government. It is part of the central government, and this is one of the issues that we are able to integrate all transportations within Jakarta, but when it comes to suburbs and Jakarta commuter lines, it's beyond our jurisdiction. So what was the proposal? We actually had presidential support on this. So I went to see Bapak President and presented him that we need to integrate this with the commuter lines, and it's done. It has been agreed that Jakarta government will be controlling 51% of the share in the kereta api KAI, not KAI, commuter line itu apa namanya? KCI. We're creating a joint venture of MRT Jakarta and KAI, and we created that joint venture, and Jakarta is controlling 51%. It is still under executions, but once that is done, then we will be able to, for us to educate the public on this agenda, so that the public will keep that agenda into priority and demand successor to continue the track.
Can I give the feedback? Sorry guys, there's so many people.
Everybody on Zoom, I'm just going to read out two questions that we have from Zoom that have come in. The first one is from Michael Pafazi, and he has asked Dr. Anis, what plan should be developed to address the impact of climate change and the threat to 3 million people in North Jakarta who may be affected by rising seas? And the second one I'll read out is from Justin Wijak. Are there certain aspects of your policies when you were in office from 2017 to 2022?
Just a minute, too fast. I'm writing it down.
Sorry. Yeah, so the first one just on
The coastal, the rising sea level.
Yes. And the second one just asking about your policies when you were governor.
Which policy?
Just general aspects of your policies when you were in office from 2017 to 2022 that you think need to be maintained
Okay.
or improved
Okay.
for the promotion of sustainable living in Jakarta.
That's a long question.
It was almost at the end. Okay, that's the second.
And then the unpredictable rain that is falling in the highlands, always coming into Jakarta. We have 13 rivers coming into the city. And even if Jakarta is dry, we may be experiencing flood because of all.
If more people will start using public transports, there may be problems to those people that actually work as drivers for the ride-hailing platforms. They're having their source of incomes from there, and they may lose their jobs as more people will go into public transport. So the question is, based on your experience, have you ever experienced the kind of a policy that you make that actually lead to another consequences or another problems, and how you actually tackle these problems? Thank you, Vance.
Thank you.
I come from Central Sulawesi. You may have heard about the disaster that hit Central Sulawesi in 2018. and it's a major earthquake and then triggered tsunami and liquefaction. You have addressed about climate change, and I want to ask you whether you also consider about the potential disaster related to the seismic activity disaster when you plan the spatial plannings, as like make a high-rise buildings, something like that. Thank you very much.
PhD at Center for Health Economics at Monash Business School.
Your name again?
Giovanni.
Oh, Giovanni. Okay.
So the question is about, I'm curious about what you think about how do you incorporate research into your daily policy making. Jakarta is one of the provinces that released the death certificate data on COVID during COVID times, and there were a few papers that came out from that using the data. But we're just curious about your thoughts and your experience in incorporating research in your daily policy making. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Here's an example with regard to, we're building public transport. Later on, you will be seeing object drivers may lose their jobs. I must also say that the phenomenon of object is also a reflection of unemployment problem in Indonesia. So it's bigger than about mobility services. It's about employment. If we are able to provide higher economic growth that is able to absorb more people in the job market, actually more people are going to convert from driving object into other occupations. So I think that's where it is needed. It is not simply about switching from taxi into public transport. It is much bigger than that. It is about unemployment. And I think we in Jakarta, the way we was on our mind before I started my work, except COVID. COVID was a test of leadership. COVID was a test of open-mindedness. And COVID was a test whether in your leadership you rely on science or you don't believe in science. Because we are facing an era in which uncertainty was there. And let me give you an illustration. Andrew, allow me to, don't worry, it will be fine, And I, on the one hand, I'm connected to all these conversations, and on the other hand, you're seeing that issues. So how do we go about it? Rely to scientists. That's our approach. We call epidemiologists 4,300 services. Something must have gone wrong. From 2,700 per month into 4,300 per month. The following year is 4,500. It was distressing for us. And that's why number 2 is task transfer. Number 3 is intimacy. You have to be close to the people. You have to engage, you have to talk, you have to invite. So these 3 competency, be transparent, be open to everything that you're facing. And number 3, be close to public. And that has been our approach in navigating the challenge in COVID. One day, maybe not near future, we will share many of the detailed stories about our experience of going through the COVID. But there is one anecdotal part of this, the importance of understanding English language. Don't underestimate that issue. Why that is the case?